Welcome to Carter's Retro Reviews. Today we're going to be reviewing Capcom Generations number 5. Now, this is kind of a big deal, and not because it's the 5th in the series. Yes, it is the last one, but it is not the last one that I have yet to review. Number 2 is because I actually don't own it. But there is 3 versions of Street Fighter on this. Now, you have no idea how big of a deal the original Street Fighter 2 was to me. It was a big deal in the arcades, and also one of the main reasons I bought a Super Nintendo. We owned a Sega Master System at the time, and then we were making the jump to the next generation, and it was pretty much based on like 2 decisions, and I think that was Mario and Street Fighter 2, and I think that was about it, and we just got lucky, I think, because the Super Nintendo, as we all know, has got a huge library of games and that sort of thing. But what we're reviewing this time is the Saturn version of the Street Fighter 2 ports. So, are they any good? Well, let's check them out. If you haven't heard of the Street Fighter series, then like that Hall & Oates song, you're out of touch. But you're not out of time because there's always time for one of the most iconic fighting games of the 90s, or ever really. The last disc Capcom dished up in the Capcom Generations series for the PlayStation and Sega Saturn from 1998 was 3 versions of Street Fighter, which, considering how many versions are out now, all seem much of a muchness. If you're pedantic, then maybe this is for you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it when I say I was nostalgia-gasming all over the place. Street Fighter 2 on the SNES was such a major game for me growing up that this rekindles feelings in me that I thought the world destroyed years ago. I also did a review for the Street Fighter collection, which is very much along the same lines as this. So, without bullshitting you for paragraphs, here is the breakdown on the package. If you haven't seen my reviews for the Capcom Generations 1, 3 and 4 yet, I say the exact same thing. And here on the 5th disc, it's exactly the same once again, very standard in terms of menu and option presentation. The options we get are all the same, but there's something oddly satisfying about having the options look just about the same across all of the packages. In-game, it's standard Street Fighter. While they're very standard for the Street Fighter series, I feel like they got better layouts in future iterations of the series, and don't get me wrong, I still think it's very solid and it looks really good for the first 3 versions of Street Fighter. The Saturn shouldn't have any problems with the graphics. If it wasn't first rate, it would really lose some big points for me just because of the age of these games and how the Saturn was born with games like this in mind. Everything is pretty perfect for all 3 games. Animation is great, there's no slowdown, and the colours are perfect. Sound is pretty good. The intro music isn't exactly how I remember it, but it's still pretty good. The one thing I will mention is the sound effects of the strong hits in the game aren't how I remember it. They sound like they don't have as much punch as what I remember. Excuse the pun. The sound effect is there in the game, but it's usually to demonstrate a medium attack rather than a strong punch or kick. It's weird, but it did bother me. Apart from that though, it's damn good.
You win!
The gameplay, 2 dudes attacking each other with an additional character or the addition of turbo mode. You still fight your way all the way to Bison, nothing there has changed. The actual gameplay is quite vanilla compared to more modern fighting games, but this was the one that started it all. Comparing the gameplay between each of the versions is all much of a muchness apart from the speed and the addition of a few characters. I do remember at the time the fact that the environment was slightly dynamic, like barrels in Ken's level would crush if you fell on them, and that was absolutely mind-blowing. And quite frankly, that's still cool to the kid inside me. Oh, and that's not a pedophile joke, that's just a metaphor. The controls handle tighter than Spanx. This has replay value in the sense that it is a 2-player and you can go old school with your Street Fighter choices. The complaint is that they're too close to each other in terms of selected games in a compilation, and 2 of the 3 games are near identical bar some very slight changes and minor improvements.
What makes Street Fighter Collection rate better than this compilation is the diversity of the choices. The Street Fighter Collection includes Street Fighter Alpha 2, as well as a version of Street Fighter which included new characters like Fei Long, Cammy and DJ. This doesn't have that. The closest we get to that is the inclusion of the bosses, Vega, Balrog, Sagat and M. Bison. The only thing that stands out there is how the names are with the incorrect characters, but even that could be argued all day, so it doesn't really matter. Would I recommend this package? I still feel like the lack of diversity in versions does hinder the package, and yes, it is a cash cow, but if you're a fighting fan and you don't have any of these games anywhere else, then maybe, if you can get it for cheap. And you should be able to because you don't have any PAL or US versions to contend with that blow the prices out of the water. Otherwise, the Street Fighter Collection might be something better to check out.